Trauma inherited. Black skin equated with the lesser. Perpetually the aggressor thanks to the oppressor's story. Preserving antiquity for his successor's glory. Upholding systems breeding racist transgressors' predatory violations of human rights. It's time we rewrite the narrative. I, for one, will be blunt and declarative because it's past due and imperative that white settlers say something, anything, to progress civil unrest, to promote change in Canada and the US. For too many non-white bodies have taken bullets to the chest, laying in caskets perfectly dressed, while thugs in blue laugh and jest, thinking this is the wild, wild west, that they are immune to arrest, and they are the law of the land. Their gun, a gavel in hand, thinking they're in old Dixie land, wearing a badge they clearly do not respect nor understand. But fuck the Black Lives Matter protesters. Fuck the water and land protectors. They're the source of your duress? Yeah, I guess, sure, how dare those people in all their distress demand that injustice be addressed, Becky? Who are they to contest, fight, or even suggest this system is fucking obsessed with kneeling on Black and Indigenous necks? Wait. You think white people are truly the oppressed? Surely you're invested in alternate internet content because the US Congress was overrun without force or gun, it's evident. Just white skin and Capitol Police protection that protected no one, that deterred no one, that seemed more like cooperation to everyone watching in real time on Twitter. So surely you're shittered if you think the evidence littered all over the interconnected web won't convict you of your high crimes of treason unresisted after you murdered a cop. Unless you insisted the reason you never got caught is because your heart stopped when you tased your balls and dropped dead like an asshole. Remembered forever as just some stupid fascist mongrel who couldn't even coo properly. Had big guns for property but roasted nuts at his autopsy, faced with just the idea of equality, has a white man volunteering to be a casualty, while the quality of life for the minority and those with alternative sexuality is determined by political fucking policy in lieu of compassion, as though the system isn't fashioned to only serve rations from the ruling class's table. At least to those of us able-bodied enough to sell our soul just to live another day, barely making a living wage, bound to the paycheck power pays, trading our lives for corporate gains, lining the pockets of madmen, filleting our earth, disengaged from the very worth of each of our human souls, while the bowls of cereal sit empty in too many families' homes. While Stockholm Syndrome, like a methadone honeycomb, fills every DNA autosome within the cultists watching Fox News, spewing hatred that they cheerfully consume like it's the last meal they'd choose if it was them facing execution on death row. See, I'm white as falling snow, so no, you can't tell me privilege doesn't flow all the way from these cishet white male CEOs to the good old boys in the hoods lighting crosses hatefully aglow on the lawns of those born beautifully bestowed with skin the color of the sun, whom this legion claim to faithfully follow. But their penitence, it's hollow. In the age to follow, they may find it hard to swallow with the unquenchable thirst that awaits because they dare to debate about worth of life with brown Jesus, who I'm sure would like to discuss the superfluous lives of these treasonous snakes that dare shackle those he created free. And how it came to be that from Pawnee to Mendi, Malinki and Cree, there's a common villain in each tribe's telling of history. Trauma inherited. Please, spare another minute. For clarity and context, my childhood was absent of helicopters and police harassment. So can you imagine my bafflement when Black and Indigenous people were adamant that white folks were an embarrassment? Not realizing that the contaminant of racism erects unconscious battlements in our heads like a sacrament. Like, how could reality be so tragically horrific? 2 million lost just to the Atlantic. This cargo, so specific, white men thought it prolific, being enriched by owning humans. It's a sickness. Children of African soil kissed by the sun, made to toil under threat of whip and gun by men whose lusts had overrun their sanity. But truthfully, the real horrors were astutely excluded from our textbooks. Just inspect yourself introspectively for the racial disrespect against even dialect, discriminatively intended to permanently dissect the human family, infecting every generation descended into a systemic machine that recommends favor be extended to the race that ascended to power by oppression indefinitely. These ideologies of superiority were turned into law to give authority to white men over the vast minority, who then diligently made it a priority to fill the majority of our prisons with slave labor. Like that does society any favors. The war on drugs? Hey, what's your flavor of white supremacy this week? Even though you reek of a plant that if a black man even uttered its name in the 70s when I became to be, or in the 80s when I was being raised ignorantly, he would have been viciously detained as Reagan adamantly implored. Even today, SWAT can't wait to smash in his door, at gunpoint hold him to the floor, knowing that if he so much as swore it could cost him his life or more his children. They'd be orphans of war. Trauma inherited. I implore you to listen, as I am a paramour of the system, admitting this addiction to Amazon and Netflix and the Prime Days and vast selection will create recollections no joyful for no one, since upon further inspection, we found out a thing or two. I, for one, never knew the size of the bull beggar Jeff Bezos had become, as though a couple $100 billion could cure his emptiness, because as God is his witness, that man is gonna burn. Money cannot hire lessons best learned when necessitous, his earnings unable to enable discernment of oncoming fire, or that to whom much is given, much is required. So, I'm now inspired by outrage rising within me, fueled by truth that has completely set me free to be an ancestrally healing force, learning constantly, using my white voice to expletively explain just how fucking bad things are when guys like Jeff are worshipped like a superstar for disenfranchising millions. His peers displacing innocent civilians from their traditions and homes, with grim consequences for their children thin from starvation. Men from civilized nations whose persuasions have decimated 31,000 square miles of rainforest annually. The eagerness of their lust to destroy, veiled by ruse deployed to overjoy underpaid workers employed in palm fields, has annoyed my last fucking nerve. No human deserves to have their home overrun to clear the way for industrial progression. Entrepreneurial, generational, white-collared aggression, considering the succession of colonial wealth ain't going to the village's population. Those whose world and health was infected by a combination of confrontational occupation and domination via indoctrination. When you stop for contemplation's sake, it just might make you sick to your stomach if you decide to plummet into the truth of these violent predicaments, predicated by detrimental management far from innocent of bloodshed and extremely blatant crimes against humanity. Seriously, though, have we all lost our sanity? We let them market the products of slavery to us with the promise of free shipping for the extra covetous, choosing to be oblivious to the raping of land, regardless of the bloodstained freight in hand, waste now scattered like sand on the shore, unable to withstand capitalism's insidious wake. You underestimate this infectious plague, plundering the wonders of oxygen and our world. Swirled with the promise that you too can be a rich white man, even though the average lifespan of humans resembles a hologram. And you could never, no matter how well you plan, spend all of Elon's wealth. Unless the health of the globe and the masses were truly the circumstances at hand you wanted to change. We need to rearrange the wealth gap and cap the amount one person can kidnap to offshore numbered bank accounts, successfully handicapping the economy that, if you've been following along with me, is built on treachery and misery that I guarantee, based on multiple power structure hierarchies, affects white people the least. Also, money isn't real in actuality, but it's the heart of this historically ravenous beast. At least I can admit the truth you cease believing, because seizing opportunities that bring enlightenment for the betterment of my imperfect soul leaves me feeling confident I will maintain my adamant arguments against the violent tyrants among us who have permanently scarred this earth and its inhabitants. Trauma inherited. You're still scared of it. The truth of colonial capitalist history made a deliberate mystery by the consistory's sophistry, denying the misery of millions of civilians, Africans, Americans, and their children that have suffered to build the pavilions and monuments of white pride. Statues and systems defended now by white guys offended by truth more than genocide. Arguments of both sides ingested like Kool-Aid cyanide kvass, lies amplified by a POTUS glorified by previously unidentified Ku Klux Klan members of Congress. Discriminative politicians of conservative subconscious spewing audacious hate or dauntless, unimaginatively villainous in their willingness to traumatize already traumatized families as they consciously did Pocahontas, and they haven't abstained from rank dogma or altered their deranged beliefs that sort of consider human lives estranged from their homelands a perfect exchange to increase their quota, false freedom for forced labor. While ignorant proud boy neighbors froth rabidly before they savor the pain of this chimera's saber-tooth paradigm, cutting black and indigenous people of color down in their prime, murdering protesters protesting crime committed by the thin blue line, thugs by slave owners' design, imprisoned by beliefs of their own twisted minds, convinced by lime-watered history that white bloodlines are worth infinitely more than others. Generations of human kin, both sisters and brothers, all bleeding red all over one another after one day some asshole dared mutter some racist bullshit that divided us, that another motherfucker thought was humorous, fallibly misunderstanding the hazardous consequences. Butterfly effect of carnivorously delivered offenses, designed to demoralize and dull the senses required to survive the numerous tumorous defenses of white male fragility that harmoniously incenses those intimately familiar with their horrendous creations in every industrial colonized nation around the globe. Generationally imposed subserviency, lest the powerful lose everything just like Job. Be left naked and exposed like the untold masses of indigenous families whose children were enrolled in residential schools where they were told, "Behold, the false white son of God." A religion that denied even sacred hair flowing in the wind once blowing through previously uninhabited, hallowed, holy ground, the right to live. A given I care not remonstrate, as reparations owed for erased cultures hasn't been offered by these vultures whom rape this planet for gain, destroying homes still to this day, and never once has their playbook changed. These capitalist assholes who commandeer rainforests, destroying our planet for corporate interest. I'm incensed because it makes no sense to me why we're enabling these fucking terrorists, desperately in need of therapists, to rule the earth, to continually dismantle the worth they predetermined we each had before our birth, as though the grand scheme of the universe gives one fuck who dies with the most money or stuff. We consume, their profits and power go up. Collectively, they do not see nor care to discuss that we are a diamond in the vacuum rough. There are consequences for ignoring serious issues like deforestation and oceans full of plastic that aren't just drastic overreactions demanding we take action. The science says we're dying. We need to trust reality, not the advertisements on TV lying on behalf of billion-dollar industries selling us on buying garbage we don't even fucking need. Predominantly affecting Black and Indigenous people of color overseas, living with capitalism's globally vulgar effects the hardest. Algorithmically, effectively, performing bombardment to lust coupled to our vanity. We sing blissfully while blue and white collar obsessed chasing someone else's dream. You don't have to be the smartest to figure this out, that the longer we wait to knock out bigotry's teeth, the higher the chance we bequeath an uninhabitable world to children yet to be conceived. So I will bleed a million fucks till you believe intersectionally weaved lies deceived you and me. Until the least among we has equality, humanity can never fully be free. Not of unnecessary death, nor the gravity of this one blue sanctuary, currently our only planet of residency. I know you may be angry, but hate shall not decrease these truths. Love increased my need to release these to you, as the old me who believed the way you do is deceased, having seen the oncoming apocalyptic scene. I said my piece, and my conscience is clean, because whether you feel me or not, you're gonna die with the rest of us, unfortunately. When the capitalist dreams of conquering at all costs makes it all too hard to breathe. When we willingly, in all our gullible greed, ultimately end up killing our entire species eternally. Trauma inherited. I love you all. I love you all. I love you all. I love you all. I love you all.